Tonight on the Chillstream, there is all sorts of unexpected developments in my personal life, and which is going to affect, which has kind of affected my family in a weird way. We got some more interesting stuff about Henry Ford and those who opposed him, and so much more. All tonight on the Chillstream. See you guys in 2 minutes. And we are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Monday Night Chill Stream. What is it? Monday, July 25th, 2023. We have all sorts of things going on, but the show, the Chill Stream, must go on. We cannot stop. We have to be committed, fully committed to making this happen. Like I was saying in the teaser, that there's been some unexpected developments in my personal life, my family life, and that's like super recent, like the last couple of days. I got to figure out what all this stuff means, and someone may be messaging me during the show, but whatever. I will manage in my usual highly professional manner. But we got so much stuff, like so much insanely insane stuff that it's like where to begin. Everywhere I thought this was going to go earlier in the week, then a whole bunch of developments occurred, and then we have to deal with said developments. But it's never bad. It is never a bad thing to start with an Aristotle quote. Really, Aristotle, you can't go wrong, you know. And so we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. You should make excellence your best effort and your most virtuous action a habit in your life, and then you will achieve eudaimonia. You will achieve a life worth living. Although we have to struggle. We struggle with a number of different things. And I want to remind you, let's start in the past, because my brain is going back and forth between the past and the future now because of the situation that I hinted at. But I've shown this before. I want to show this again. This is from 1933 New York Times or New York World newspaper article that Henry Ford would replace gold with an energy currency and stop wars. So this was the sort of did Henry Ford invent Bitcoin before Bitcoin? And Henry Ford's viewpoint was that the international bankers controlled all of the gold, or the majority of the gold on the planet Earth. And because they locked it down and kept it to themselves, they created a false market for paper currency or fiat currency. And so they manipulated people by keeping real money, gold, out of their hands, and manipulated money, fiat currency, in their hands, and that this is the way they control things. And he wasn't particularly happy about it, so he thought that if we had a different type of money based on a different system, and he wanted to use the Muscle Shoals, which is in Louisiana, Muscle Shoals power generation plant. He wanted permission from the government to make this electricity energy money thing. He never got it. It never went anywhere. But this was Henry Ford back in the day. So I think I've set that up. I think I've sufficiently set that up. I believe I have. I'm not. So let's go to here. Let's go with 59 seconds. This guy's a Canadian dude with very funny hair, but he's got some interesting stuff to say about Henry Ford.
Fun fact, Henry Ford once wanted to take Ford's massive profits and reinvest them into the Ford Motor Company by raising employee wages and building cheaper cars. He was sued by Ford Motors stockholders who claimed a corporation's sole purpose is to generate profit for the stockholders and not improve the lives of the workers or public. In 1918, Ford was sitting on $60 million in profit. Henry Ford's idea was to give each worker a massive wage increase, as well as lowering the cost of new vehicles, rather than distributing the money among stockholders. Ford was sued by John and Horace Dodge, who were minority stockholders in Ford and also owned the Dodge Motor Company. The lawsuit made its way to the Michigan State Supreme Court, where Ford lost, and it was ruled the surplus profits must be paid out to the stockholders rather than be distributed among the workers. A quote from the judge's decision read, "A business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. The powers of a corporation's directors should be used for the purpose of profiting the stockholders and not for other purposes. This set the precedent for America's current corporate model."
Okay, so 1918, 3 years after the Federal Reserve was established, they're interfering with with what Henry Ford wants to do with this company. And I don't know if you saw it because it kind of went by quick. Kind of went by a little quick, but I did a little thing. We like to call screenshot, and I screenshotted the two minority stockholders who took Henry Ford to court and told him that he could not pay his workers higher wages, that the profits of Ford had to go to the stockholders. This logo you see on the screen right now is the original logo of the Dodge Motor Company, or the Dodge Brothers Motor Vehicles, which shows the world encircled underneath a Jewish star, Star of Remphan, Star of David, call it what you will. This was their original corporate logo. And at the center it says DB, or Dodge Brothers. These are the people who sued Henry Ford in court to make sure he did not give excess profits to his employees, to his workers, and he did not make cars cheaper. So the ability for a certain group to affect your life via government through the courts, I've made this point a few times. This is indisputable, right? The most powerful driver of wealth is government, and it will either drive you to become wealthy or it will drive you to poverty. But the people that didn't like, that Ford didn't like, he didn't like for a reason. It was not some random. It was not some random dislike for people fucking with your life, but people love to fuck with your life. And let's go back to prison real quick. There's a ton of stuff on PrisonTube. I got two things, but right now, the reason why I'm a big freedom guy is because this is the reality. When you let other people control your life, this is what happens. Here's 52 seconds. That dude is a white guy with a long beard and the American flag do-rag. He's gonna tell you about a little situation he had when he was inside.
Days later, the CEO and the counselor, whatever, them people that pull you in the back, they pull me in the back. Two of them. He says, folks, what's up with that inmate that checked in yesterday, your cellie? I was like, you know what's up with him. Why you even put him in my cell? This has the balls to tell me. He said, I bet, this is what I'm talking to, I bet him $25 that dude wouldn't last 24 hours in your cell. I said, you're telling me you put a pedophile in my cell on a bet? He said, yeah, and you lost. I was like, dude, I'm so mad sitting there. I'm like, you're playing with my life, bro. Because I was on my way back to him up. If I would have smashed his head in or killed him or something, then what would you have done to me?
Those of you who really don't want to be free, that's the life you're asking for. You're asking for people to fuck with you on levels you cannot fucking understand. And they're going to do it entirely for fun. And a large number of people will choose this type of security, this type of misery over dangerous freedom. I am much more of a dangerous freedom guy. And there is good reason for that, because that guy's story shows, you could be trying to work your way out of a bad situation. You're doing your time, you're doing your bit in prison, and then somebody creates a circumstance where if you react emotionally to it, you stay in prison for another 30 fucking years. But you die in prison because somebody wants to win a $25 bet. That's probably not the circumstance you want to live under. And any system that allows that doesn't correct that is one that you should oppose. You should oppose that. But people love to be controlled. And I'm going to show you this video. It's 52 seconds. It's from, no, it's 20 seconds. It's not even 20 seconds. And it's going to show you what the future is going to look like. And it's going to start in Washington, D.C. And I've seen this, the more I meditate on it, way back in the day when I did the Kurt Doolittle video. And I went up to New Haven, Connecticut, and I was like, yeah, fuck this guy, I'll kick his ass, or whatever the fuck I said in that crap video. And put the clickbait title, The Truth About Kurt Doolittle. When I was walking around that park in New Haven, every banner you've seen, like the Black Lives Matter, Justice for this one, that one, like all over the place, rainbow flags everywhere. But all the buildings had these heavy steel doors and cameras over the doors and video doorbells, and you were not going to no one could just get into or get out of the building. I've mentioned this before, that access control, who gets in, who doesn't get in, where do they get into, all that stuff is going to become a bigger and bigger and bigger deal. And I got 20-second video to show you of how this is going to affect you. And again, starting out in a little test market, but this is what the future is going to look like, maybe for you or for your kids.
Very controversial new Whole Foods in Washington, D.C. You have to scan to check in. You have to scan to check out. You have to scan to leave the checkout. And then you have to scan to leave the store.
That's cool. Access control, access control, access control. Who's allowed in? How far are you allowed in? You have to wait here. You're pendant, like do not pass go, do not collect $200. And people will, when the outside world, when the money really starts fucking dying and it's crazy, scary, violent outside, they're going to look to systems like that as a comfort. You know what I mean? They're going to look forward to that. They're like, oh yeah, this at least I know when I'm here with my shopping cart, things won't go to absolute shit because, only X, you have to be X level, or you have to have this or that to get in, this place so I can go get my fucking GMO foods and my Impossible burgers. Oh yeah, so I was just in the supermarket. That fucking Beyond Meat, Impossible Meat thing. I don't know if you guys ever looked at it. That shit was $11 a pound. The fake hamburger, the Beyond Meat hamburger, $10.79 a pound. The real stuff is still only like $5 a pound. How the fuck do they expect people to buy it? It's crap, and it costs twice what the real thing costs. But it's still on the shelves everywhere you go. So, but until the money dies, we're going to limp along and limp along and limp along. And the what is the Overton window for what is considered normal and acceptable is going to change until you're living like these people here. I got a quick video. It is 1 minute 21 seconds, and here's a dude. I don't know. I'm not sure what where I grabbed this clip, but this is what's happening in foreign countries is going to happen. This is going to start happening here.
I was in Turkey a couple months ago, and I wanted to spend. We all know that they've gone through this hyperinflation, so I spent a few days there. I had a tour guide. This gal was probably 30 years old. And I was very inquisitive with pretty much everyone I met. I said, how are you guys dealing with this inflation? And they're actually dealing with it very well. But this was their strategy. What they do is they get paid in lira. At the end of the week, they pay all their bills. And anything they have left over, they immediately turn it into dollars or gold. And then I went through the airport, that brand new airport they have that's gorgeous. And on my way out, I just happened to get a coffee, and they opened the cash register. And I just happened to look in that cash register in Turkey, and all they had in there were US dollars. But I want to be very clear for the viewer. I'm saying that the dollar, if we have a big crisis situation, there's that flight to safety and the liquidity issues we talk about, the dollar goes up, but I'm talking about going up against other fiat currencies. I am not talking about the dollar going up against goods and services in the United States. And this is a hard concept for people to understand. They have to look at the dollar as two separate currencies. So inside the United States, we can have 10% inflation, while the dollar is going up by 10% outside of the United States relative to other fiat currencies such as the euro, the Turkish lira, etc. And people really need to understand that concept.
That guy, he's not even a Bitcoin, but he makes an important point that you could be losing 10% of your purchasing power here in the U.S., but the headlines, all the newspapers, all the financial shows will say, oh, the dollar is so strong. The dollar is stronger than the Japanese yen. It's stronger than the euro. It's stronger than the pound sterling, whatever. The dollar is the king currency of the planet. That doesn't mean you aren't suffering in America from inflation. It doesn't mean that. The inflation is still happening, but as he says, relative to other fiat currencies, the dollar may look super strong, but only because it's the best of a bad bunch. And the reality, what he said, people in Turkey take their Turkish lira and they turn them into dollars or gold. But everyone everywhere all the time has to transact. There is literally no civilization at all if people don't transact. Let's take a look at what's going on in the comments section. Virgil Doc, Purple Heart, welcome to the show, sir. So just to drive home the point that there is always an exchange. There is always people do what people do. Here's another video, another quick prison tube video that explains another alternative financial system.
You've been to a lot of different prisons in America, federal prisons. I'm sure you've seen a lot of different currencies. Can you talk about like what the currency is used on different yards and who sets the currency and how it works?
Most of the yards I've been on mostly be like books of stamps, actual mailing stamps. But they say in like Lowe's, like the money will be food or something like that. Like people will take food as the currency instead of books and stamps.
Now, how does someone convert books of stamps into actual legit money? What's the process?
I mean, well, you can have, as a person, I make the phone call, like, yo, I'm trying to buy these, for my mans. They could have Cash App, Chime, or you could physically make the person bring the people the money, Western Union.
Yeah, Cash App is definitely big in prisons now.
As surprising as it might seem, there's a smartphone app called Cash App that people used to trade money back and forth. Fun fact about the CEO of Cash App: he moved the company out of San Francisco because street crime in San Francisco was super high. He moved it to Texas, and he said with the specifically that he was moving because the crime was out of control in San Francisco. And with Cash App, you could send money back and forth. You can also buy Bitcoin, by the way, and only Bitcoin, nothing else, just Bitcoin on Cash App. However, the CEO of Cash App earlier this year or late last year was returned to San Francisco on a business trip and was in fact stabbed to death. And you think, people thought, well, how ironic, this guy leaves San Francisco to get away from violent crime, comes back to San Francisco and gets stabbed to death. Well, the problem with these tech bros and these big money dudes is that, none of them are the way they're presented on television. This guy liked to get high, and he liked to party with females. And apparently someone he knew who was like a programmer or in the software business, he hooked up with this dude's sister, and they got high for a weekend or whatever. And whatever happened between them happened. And then he's like, okay, get out of my apartment. And she got, maybe she thought, like, I'm going to marry the CEO of Cash App. And her life was shattered by this. She told her brother met this dude at the airport, and they were riding along, and he's like, hey, I heard you were partying with my sister one weekend. And when he admitted it, this dude who's a software programmer took out a knife and just stabbed him in the rental car, ran away. So they call it the murderer, but it's, oftentimes these people become hoist on their own petard. But the bizarre story about Cash App aside, even in controlled environments. Oh, that's what I was going to call this. I was going to call this fucking stream open air gulag. I should have called it open air gulag. But the personal thing is weighing on my brain. Because we live in an open air gulag. You can move around state to state in America, and you can go out and you can come back, but you don't have any real freedom. The people that control what happens in this country, if you trip across the wrong tripwire, you're going to pay a very serious price. A lot of people have the absolute illusion of freedom, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. Almost everything you see online is not the way it appears. And even I'll show you another quick video, 43 seconds, that even this story is not as it appears. The guy who told us about Henry Ford and showed us the original Dodge Brothers logo, he's got a YouTube channel. I don't know, a couple thousand subscribers, but he did this quickie. Video, and it takes a moment to understand what's really going on. But here's this everyone should be familiar with.
Fun fact, it's believed the CIA has a meme warfare department where they take popular meme formats, repackage them with their chosen message, and then send them back out onto the internet to influence the American people. The US government first became aware of the power of memes back in 2011, and DARPA hired Dr. Robert Finkelstein to research meme warfare and lay out what it would look like. Dr. Finkelstein came back with a document that laid out how the Meme Warfare Center could be structured, which included this slide, that laid out how an organically created meme could then be repackaged to spread the government's chosen message. It's unknown whether the US government ever actually created the Meme Warfare Department, as that would be classified information. But in 2017, as part of the Vault 7 WikiLeaks dump, folders of blank meme formats were found in the leaked CIA documents.
Okay, so the thing about that story is not that the CIA repackages memes, but they hired Dr. Finkelstein. I wonder how much Dr. Finkelstein was paid to make that shitty fucking graph of boxes with lines to other boxes. I'm guessing he got like $600,000. You know what I mean? I'm guessing he got about $600K for that fucking total piece of shit because, you know, and to teach the CIA to turn their opponent's propaganda against them. Yeah, they really needed lessons in that. But the thing about that story that is not obvious is that, once again, there's a group of people that can just reach into the public treasury and take as much money as they want and give it to their friends, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I don't think, I do not personally believe that being a helpless victim is the route to a happy and successful life. But many people think that, you know, think that it's a good idea. Just put somebody else in charge, and then they cross their heart, hope to die, stick a needle in their eye. They're not going to fuck it up. And you still believe that. That's a serious character weakness on your part, but you should probably stop believing that. So what am I gonna what am I gonna do? What am I gonna go? Let's talk about again. You'll hear this on staying on the subject of money and governance and a few other things. They push this as a meme or as a narrative about, you know, the potential threats to the United States. This is that little Spanish girl from Miami.
Have you heard that BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they want to go back to the gold standard. So they're developing this currency that's linked to gold. But I want to ask you, why did the gold standard fail? If you don't know the answer, I'll tell you. Very simple. The government would hold the gold and they would give people certificates, like a golden ticket, that represented the gold that was in the bank. And obviously the government decided to print more money and more of these certificates so that they had more paper. There were more papers than there was gold in the bank. And technically, we had to trust the amount of gold that they reported because there was no way for us to go in and check. My question is, why are we going to go back to history, repeat history, instead of evolving and adapting to the Bitcoin standard? Let me know if you want me to dive deep on the Bitcoin standard.
Chick, whatever, she's some kind of Spanish chick from Miami. She's probably half Cuban. She's kind of got it figured out, right? She kind of has it figured out, like, hey, are we really going to go back to 100 years ago technology, right? And why would you trust governments? Why would you trust Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa to somehow all coordinate their activities and issue a piece of paper that you can redeem for gold, like a gold bar in Brazil, and then you take that piece of paper over to Russia and they're going to give you a gold bar? That's never going to happen. But people will tell you, oh no, this is a serious thing and this is going to happen, and that is never going to fucking happen. That is never, ever, ever going to happen. But they hold it out there as a boogeyman to scare you. Oh, America is going to lose its economic dominance, and that's why we have to do God knows what the fuck is. Okay, you have to. It's important to when you hear that the BRICS countries are going to do this or going to do that, it's entirely bullshit. It is 100% pure fiction. You can, when you hear that, you can safely go, okay, I know for sure that is never going to fucking happen. That is never, ever, ever going to happen. So what else do I got? See how much videos I got and some other stuff I got to see. No, wait, we don't want to show that yet. We don't want to show that. We might not. Now I got to think of what I should want to show or what I don't want to show. And I'm scrolling around trying to figure out what I have not. Oh, here's a good one. Okay, this was I've shit all over RFK Jr. and I will continue to do that until there is no breath in my lungs. But But here's his latest thing. And when I try to describe that there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of stuff happening, and we don't know how quickly things are going to change, but this is when even the fucking CIA, the deep state, which runs the RFK Jr. campaign, they occasionally accidentally tell the truth. They don't intend to, but they say it. What they say is going to end up being true, and they're not going to understand how we got there. So this was earlier in the week. I'll just throw this overlay up there. So it says, RFK Jr. announces his plan to back the US dollar with Bitcoin. He also mentioned gold and something else, but he specifically said he would back the US dollar with Bitcoin. So, do you really think that they would allow him to say something like that and he wouldn't catch a bullet like his father caught a bullet and like his uncle caught a bullet? You know what I mean? But it's kind of saying the quiet part out loud. There's nothing backing the US dollar. There's nothing backing the US dollar, right? When you ask, where does the US dollar come from?
System with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally, and we do that by.
Okay, we just print it digitally. We just press a button, and then 100 million or fucking $2 trillion appears into the economy, right? And this guy, RFK Jr., is going to pretend like he's gonna, because you elect him, he's going to introduce some sort of accountability, some sort of rigid accountability into what's happening. Walrus Libertarian, wow, long time no see, sir. Welcome to the show from the icy cold nation of Canada. Have not seen you in the chat in quite some time. But RFK Jr. announcing this, again, it's a hustle. But there are things moving around in the background that when the money dies in America, the Federal Reserve note, the green pieces of paper that are in your wallet or in your safe or whatever, when they become worthless, the US dollar will not actually die, but Bitcoin will back what the new US dollar is, and it will not be a paper receipt issued by a private corporation. We got what's going on in the comments. Federico Vasconcelos, welcome to the show. The US Navy is backing the US dollar. Yeah, well, that's good. So what are they going to do? Well, the US Navy backing the US dollar. The US Navy is just blowing up shit. What was it? Fucking they detonated a 40,000-ton bomb underneath an aircraft carrier just to see what would happen. Like literally, like the dumbest thing you could fucking do. They're just wasting all sorts of money. This meme, this is what the future looks like. When you talk about the U.S. military, this is what it's going to look like. Are these guys U.S. Navy SEALs, Federico? I don't know if they're Navy SEALs. Are they Army Rangers? Are they Marine Corps? Blah, 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 blahs. It doesn't matter. You get out of line. When the money dies, these are the dudes you're going to have to face, right? You don't want to physically face these guys. So let's find a way. Let us find a way to avoid direct confrontation with the people who control dudes who have that level of skill at violence. Let's avoid direct confrontation, right? Because that's not going to be good for us. It's not going to be good for them. It's not going to be good for anybody, right? So, okay. Here's the idea that we're trying to get across. 44 seconds. 44-second. I think it's narrated by Sailor. I always got a ton of stuff by Michael Saylor. Right? Is that what else? Let me see. you know what? Let me just go here. Here's the point I would make 59 seconds. It's Mikey S. Michael Saylor once again making a very clear and logical case for why you should change what you're doing and how you save your money and how you plan for your future. This is a very clear and very logical case argument.
Well, I mean, digital commodity might not sound like much, but when you go down to the next round, which is like it's a Ponzi scheme or it's a scam or it's tulip bulbs, right? The difference between tulip bulbs and digital commodity is a 0 versus a 1. And I have said before, and I would repeat it again, if it's not going to 0, it's going to 1 million. It's either nothing, right? If it's nothing, then it's getting scrubbed out and banned. And of course, we now know that it's not getting banned, right? There's no way that Fidelity, Citadel, BlackRock, Charles Schwab, Deutsche Bank, Credit Agricole, Banco Santander all decide they're interested in this, right? That they're not endorsing a tulip bulb. Once you go from 0 to 1, then the question is, okay, well, it's an asset class. If it's not going away, then what's it worth?
The question you have to ask yourself. And the answer for me is everything on the planet Earth divided by 21 million. It's actually less than 21 million, but that is our worldview. And when I challenge people, anybody in the chat, anybody who sees this, anybody who's going to watch this next week, you know, what will you do to stop the money? Or how can you? When has anyone ever stopped the money print? And the answer is never. The guys running the printer might be different dudes, and they at least in the short run may have had a slightly different idea, but trusting corruptible, weak, imperfect human beings to create a durable, long-lasting economic model that benefits everyone has not worked out real well. That could be like arguably the history of the world up until today. People like myself and others, we believe that the world is going to be different in the future. Okay, between here and there, like a lot of Bitcoiners, they're like, oh, it's a peaceful revolution and we're peaceful. You know what? You may be a peaceful person, and on the other end of this, it may be there may be a lot of. I would think there would be a lot of prosperity and tranquility. But between here and there, there's going to be some pretty rough fucking water. You know what I mean? Between here and there, you know, it's not going to be a fucking walk in the park. It's not going to be a walk in the park because the people we're dealing with are endlessly they're fucking skinwalkers. This is stuff I've had this on my phone for weeks. I'm like, should I show this? Should I not show this? I thought it was like too stupid, but now I'm not thinking it. I'm thinking it's appropriate. This is, in terms of the green pieces of paper you call money and what real money is, which is Bitcoin. That I have two videos here. One that's like 1:23, one that's shorter, and the difference is the skinwalkers, the people who pretend to be something that they're not, and then what the real McCoy is. And this is a more lighthearted, a little bit of fun, but let's go take a walk down some very bizarre fucking streets.
Yasu, it means hello. Technically, it means in good health, but people just use it to say hello. Yasu.
They're handing out some traditional Turkish candy here, donated by Economy Candy. A lot of people that are eating it are remembering when their grandparents used to give it to them as little kids.
People around the world, they come in, they see all this diversity. The olive oil and the sea salt I have is from Greece, from the South Peloponnese. In New York, we're 10 years. In Greece, we have over 100 years. And my daughter Eleni, she's the fourth generation of the Metz estate.
My grandfather is originally from Greece. He was a Greek Jew, and he had these worry beads, and he would use them anytime he was anxious. And it's kind of like an old-fashioned fidget spinner. It reminds me that Jews have always been anxious. I'm never alone.
Oh my God! A bunch of Jews pretending to be Greeks in Chinatown in the Lower East Side. That is beyond hilarious. But let me show you what partying with my people. Let me show you a real video which will largely illustrate the difference between those who pretend to be one thing and then the vibe of the people who really are that thing.
Hey everyone, I'm here at Holy Taxiarchi in St. Haralabos, and this is your guide to Greek Fest. First things first, you're gonna want to drink. Food line too long? Take a quick scan. Maybe you recognize someone. Maybe you catch up with them. Maybe they buy you a meal. Let me guess, you've been in line for Lukumadas 2 hours and your phone just started to ring. Someone's about to try to catch up with you and make you the Lukumada mule. Do not answer. And most importantly, if you see your friends with kids, run the other way. Because if you don't, I know.
So that's cute, but it shows the difference between the people who live the culture and those who wear it as a skin suit. Like, which party would you rather go to? Who looks like they're really partying and having fun? You know, like it's, you know, when I see stuff like that, I'm like, and I put these two things side by side, I'm like, oh my God, that's so demented. And for people like us who understand that the people in charge are lunatics, but everyone believes that giving out Turkish candy like this, can you believe, like, here we're giving out Turkish candy? Oh, you mean that nation that occupied Greece for 400 years and treated them like slaves and took their firstborn children for the military, and you know, like that's the type of candy you're giving out to celebrate your Greek Jewness or whatever the fuck you think you are? Like where did you get that? Just because you're born in a barn doesn't make you a horse. You know what I mean? So when you are faced with what is real and what is an illusion, always I would suggest you go to where what is the real thing, and it's fairly obvious who's having fun, who's enjoying their life. Why is, you know, where are the crowds, where are the children running around safe and you know, having fun, and that's, you know, what is really life? What is the life you want to live? You know, what future do you want to see? And then which road are you going to take to get there, right? That part of that is, you know, we have to work. We were born into a world of Federal Reserve notes. We were born into a world where the US dollar rules the globe, you know, but that time is drawing to a close. And it would be wise of you to begin to prepare for the transition. That's a lot of what I say. I don't know how well I articulate it. To be honest, logical arguments don't always make a whole lot of sense, and life is oftentimes very, very, very illogical. And I hinted at this at the beginning of the show. There's a situation that's popped up in the last few days. And now we'll go here. We'll go into the personal, James's personal history segment of the show. A little past, a little sort of present. I'm gonna put this photo up. So this is a picture of taken by my mom. of the family that I was born into. This was in the 1970-ish. So my father holding my sister, and myself. I had my arms around my brother, who literally is not even touching me at that point. He and I really did not get along, but this photo was taken, I want to say, less than a month before my father went into one of his psychotic episodes, and my mother had to take all three of us kids out of the house in the middle of the night, and we ended up in an orphanage or whatever, a children's shelter for whatever number of months. But things went from this to a very, very different, an extremely different life where, you know, I've mentioned it before, and I'm not trying to be negative, and I'm not trying to garner sympathy, but I was put in an environment, a controlled custody environment, where they said to you, you know, like, listen, your parents are not coming back for you. You have to just do what we tell you to do. And you know, when I say shit like nobody's coming to rescue you, I've lived through that. I lived that as a little kid, you know. But for me and for my sister and my brother, it actually did work out. But for the majority of the kids in that facility, mostly who were Black and Hispanic, nobody ever came back. You know what I mean? And it's having circumstances forced upon you forces you to adapt. And that's what's going to happen to everybody economically relatively soon. And I'm just trying to tell you to prepare for it, maybe for yourself and for the people you give a shit about, which may be your brothers and sisters, which may be other members of your family, in-laws or whatever. When I was around, I want to say like 12 years old, one day, my parents told me, oh, your brother Louis is going to come to live with us. And I'm like, who the fuck is Louis? Because this guy in the picture, this was my brother Michael, who took his own life when he was 24 years old. I was 19 at the time. But Michael took his own life when he was 24, after more than a little bit of struggle. Anyway, but before that happened, our new brother from Hawaii showed up, and this is one of the only pictures I have of him. He's in a photo booth with a woman who would later become his wife. But this is a picture of my half brother that I met when this is like early 1980s ish. So he was relatively fresh out of prison. That was the woman he ended up marrying, and he doesn't look a whole lot like me. But the nature of the way I grew up, the kind of the chaotic nature I grew up, the mental illness thing, there was a like, you don't know what's going to happen next, and then you have to like, okay, now this is happening. You're like, all right, you got to do this thing, whatever. Like, okay, this is what I have to adjust. You don't get to complain. You don't get to cry. You can't impose your will in the situation. Circumstances outside of you push you around. Okay, so fucking what? A lot of people have had this. Well, apparently, my sister has a issue with one of her grandchildren, and it was so serious to her, and she was so worried about it. And I haven't spoken to my sister in 10 years. My sister reached out and started asking me all kind of questions about a bunch of stuff about my mother's health, different things, because she was estranged from my mother the last 10 or so years from, and this is all health related to her grandchildren stuff. So she's trying to do all this whacked out shit, and she ends up taking a DNA test, right? She takes this DNA test, and it turns out she gets DNA matched with some dude who is apparently another half brother who's older than the one I just showed. So, and this was only like the last couple of days. He their, I don't know what it was, like Ancestry or 23andMe kind of thing, connects them. Like your 26% match with this other person who's 26% from the, like, and this is like fucking upending all kinds of shit. My sister does not react well to things that are not in her control. She can be very plastic with the truth. She says what she wants to be true, which is not necessarily true, and whatever. So unfortunately, this guy talked to her first, or contacted her first. His mother was a person of some chaos, not necessarily mental illness, but lived a chaotic life. And he grew up in a similarly whacked out fucking way. Although he's older than me. I think he was born in 57. So like 1957. So he's like a boomer dude. Went in the army, was in Vietnam, got out of the army, and he went into federal law enforcement. So I'm actually blood related to a Fed, which I think is pretty funny. But he was in like some federal gang task force or something in the southern part of the United States. And I spoke to him the other day because the half brother I do know about, the one in that black and white photo where he's kissing a woman in the photo booth, his oldest daughter's messaging me like, "Hey, Uncle James, blah blah blah, this and that." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" She's like, "Oh, do you know you have another half brother?" I'm like, "No." And like, I'm like, "What are you even talking about?" It's like, "Oh, well, 23andMe or Ancestry or whatever." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" And it's all it's not the most insane thing, but here's the thing. Since I said my sister reached out to me and she was talking about the DNA test, and I'm like, I was busting her balls. I was laughing. I was like, "Listen, I'll tell you your entire DNA history. Just give me $79." And she's like, "Oh, you're an asshole. Fuck you. I'm not going to tell you anything." Blah 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 blah. And here's the thing. Put us up there again. Let me put the little kid's picture up there. So you see my father has dark hair. You see that I have dark hair. And you see my brother has dark hair. My mother, not pictured, the one taking the picture, also had dark hair. You notice that my sister does not have dark hair. In fact, her hair was like almost reddish at that point. When she was a little kid, she looked like a strawberry blonde. Anyway, when we got out of the children's shelter, and things looked like everything was going to go well, and everything was going to go back together, and we were going to be like a normal family. There was a brief time because of all the craziness, but we were all sitting at the dinner table, and just to be a ball buster, and you guys know I'm a fucking ball buster, and I was this way from a fucking kid. My sister always was, she was such a pain in the ass. She wouldn't fucking eat, and she had to be served first, and food wasn't the right fucking temperature. It was a fucking problem. Like, and everything was centered around her. She was the baby, and like that was that. And I was the middle kid, and I had to put up with all this shit. But we're sitting there, just like having dinner quietly. My father never had the TV on. The TV was not allowed to be on when we were eating. So I got in a fucking mood, and I was like, I looked at my sister, her head's down in the plate, and whatever she was fucking eating. And I said, "Mom, Dad," and they looked at me like, should we tell her? And they looked at me like, they're like, and my sister's not even paying attention. I was like, "Should we tell Diana that she's adopted?" And when she picks her head up and she goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, Diana, come on, look around the table." It's like, Mom and Dad has dark hair and brown eyes. Mom has dark hair and brown eyes. I have dark hair and brown eyes. Michael's got dark hair and blue eyes. Take a look. You've got like blonde hair and green eyes. You're adopted. And my parents let me get away with this. They didn't shut it down right away. They just kind of let it run for a little bit. And then my sister like freaked the fuck out. Like she freaks out and starts crying and goes like fucking wigs out. And then my parents like, stop it. All right, stop it, James. You know what I mean? Like, just stop it. And it was kind of a family joke for a number of years. Okay, so what? This DNA thing fucking comes up with this, whatever this half brother is. And I was telling my sister, like, listen, you don't know, like these DNA companies are not accurate. They're not they present themselves as scientifically factual, inarguable truth. I said, but it's fiction. No, she doesn't buy into that. She's whatever. This is scientific certainty of this, that, and the third. So she gets these DNA results back that show that and she must have sent in her husband's last name because her husband has a very Scottish last name. It says she's like 43% Scottish or some shit, like 43%, like 30% Scottish, 17% Norwegian, like all kinds of like crazy stupid shit. 9% Jewish, and like all this dumb fucking stuff. And I found this out from my niece, so I'm not supposed to know this, but I'm like, oh, that's fucking nonsense. Okay, so the half brother, the new half brother that I didn't know I had, I messaged him on Facebook. I said, listen, my understanding is you and I are related. We have the same father, blah, 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 blah. I said, if you want to call me and talk, here's my phone number. I sent my phone number. And, I said, yeah, I'm available Sunday, pretty much all day, just not early in the morning. This Saturday passed, there was no fucking word. This Sunday, this guy, my niece, the half brother I know about, his niece is texting me and calling me and blah, 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 the way women on the fucking phone. And all of a sudden I'm using the phone 1,000 times more than I normally do, but whatever. So she's like, has he contacted you yet? Have you talked to him? Blah, 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 blah. What did dad say? What did this say? I'm like, honey, I don't like that thing. I don't know. I don't know what this guy's going to do, what he's not going to do. So this guy calls up, and like I said, he's retired. He's did a couple of tours in the U.S. Army. He was in a gang unit on some federal level in the South. He's got a law enforcement background, blah, 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 and a bunch of stuff from his life. And I know I'm telltales out of school, but it's as chaotic or more chaotic than anything I ever experienced. So he and I, who are roughly of an age, although he's older than I am, much older than I am, he's closer in age to this guy, to Louis. We call him Louis. His name was George Louis Manos, which is the same as my father's. But he's closer in age to Louis, but whatever. He's retired federal cop, and I'm like, holy, and I'm on the phone with this guy. I'm like, holy fucking shit, I'm blood related to a Fed. Are you fucking kidding me? And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, hey, yeah, so, just so you know, I used to be involved in extremist politics back in the day. So I didn't go into details, but I'm like, whatever. So he and I talked for a while, a couple of hours, because on Sunday, my job called up and said, oh, listen, go up to White Plains. And I was on the phone with this guy. I said, listen, I'll be back in 10 minutes. I got to do this, and I'll chat with you. And he's calling me with his wife. He's got a wife in the car. They're down in Georgia somewhere. And we're talking back and forth. What he knows, what I know, the DNA thing, blah, 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 blah. And he seems like a very reasonable man. Certainly a guy who's has had a lot of experience similar to what I have had. And my sister had a very negative reaction to this guy, like, oh, you're trying to attack my family and blah, 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 blah. It's not true. He's just like, I don't know. I got this DNA. I don't remember why he did the DNA thing, but he's like, and it matched me to you. So I was just curious. He said, if you don't want me in your life, I won't be in your life. I'm not looking for anything. I'm just like curious, So anyway, he seemed like a reasonable guy. So I'm chatting with him for a bit while I'm waiting in traffic to get over the fucking GWB. And the job calls me and goes, oh, by the way, we got another job to drive up to fucking Portland, Maine. Portland, Maine from New Jersey is like 350 miles one way. And I took the job because Saturday I didn't do any work. So I'm like, all right, I'll do this fucking super long fucking drive job. So the guy's like, how much time do you have? I was like, listen, dude, I just took a job to drive to Portland, Maine from New Jersey. I said, so I'm going to be in my car for the next 14 hours at least, you know, like, do you want to, whatever you want to call back, or you want to, you know, whatever you got to do, you want to, like, we can talk as much as you want or as much as you want. At any rate, this whole thing is like fucking set my entire living family, like, they're all fucking tizzy, they're all out of their fucking minds. And it sort of affects me in some way. I'm not exactly sure how, but it's something a bit unexpected. I certainly thought I had everything, a lid on everything, but this is some new weird kerfuffle. This is some new weird wrinkle in my life that don't know if it's going to mean something. Don't know if it's not going to mean something. But I'm like, it's more than a bit bizarre. Life's going to throw you curveballs, right? That's on a personal level. That's happened to me, and may have happened to you as well. And it's the more prepared you are for this, the better off you're going to be, right? So with the way I grew up and whatever the circumstances I grew up in, it's kind of extreme, unusual things have happened to me, and I've sort of dealt with them I've dealt with them. And so you develop that skill, and you kind of keep that skill as you go forward. So what I suggest to people, because I don't mean on a personal, but it's going to affect you personally. There are bigger forces that you can't control about the fucking money printer and about how politics is going to change in the next 10, 15 fucking years. Shit you can't control and you can't influence. If you start prepping for it now, if you adapt to it now, you're going to be in a lot better shape in the future. That is ultimately my message as my man, my one and only man. Who's better than this guy, Aristotle? Excellence is what we repeatedly do. You have to continually do this stuff. You have to adapt. You have to make the best of it. You have to figure out a way to advance your interest and make your life the best it can be, despite very, very, very challenging circumstances. And the challenge is always, you don't know what the fuck's going to happen next. So, well, anyway, that's where we are. That's where we are at this point. What do we got in the comments? We got more comments. What happens to your Bitcoin when you die with your private keys? Oh, excellent question, Mr. Federico Vasconcelos. Theoretically, you are making a donation to every other Bitcoin holder, right? If there is a limited amount of valuable property, right? Bitcoin is a digital commodity. There's a limited amount. If you can make that amount of valuable, scarce commodity, if you can make it more valuable, everyone that still has it gets wealthier. Let's go with where's the one? I have a video. I specifically have a video for you, sir. Here, Bitcoin as the apex property, 44 seconds. It's a little like the animation thing, but narrated by Michael Saylor. So to answer your question directly, sir, this is this should be clear enough.
If I lived 200 years ago, I would go back and buy Manhattan in 1900, all of it. Just buy the land, hold it, keep it in the family. That would be a good idea. Buy apex property 100 years before everybody else has to move there and wait. That's what I would do then. Today, knowing what we know now, I would buy the apex property in cyberspace. And the apex property in cyberspace is Bitcoin, and I would just wait, let nature take its course. People are going to do everything they can to develop those applications, those businesses on top of digital property. And as they succeed, they're going to lock up the property, they're going to create more demand for it, they're going to drive up the price of it, and you're going to benefit as a property holder.
So that's a good idea. The amount of Bitcoin you have, if you die with the private keys in your head, and no one gets that Bitcoin, that means Bitcoin becomes even more rare. Sailor in that little bit of video makes the point that Manhattan Island 200 years ago was dirt cheap. Like nobody cared about it, right? Like who could picture what would happen in 200 years of development on Manhattan Island, right? And you are in a similar situation with Bitcoin. Now, I've shown this before. Which one? The Venezuelan Bolivar. You can see the whole thing. $1 US, 450,000 Venezuelan bolivares, right? Their money, their dollars. One of our dollars is 450,000 of their dollars. So X number of Bitcoin is going. Whatever you have in terms of Bitcoin it's difficult to measure it in terms of US dollars, because the dollar has not become as worthless as the bolivares. Let's return to a theme that I've hit a number of times. What will stop the money printer? What will stop the dudes at the money printer from saying, I'll give you a fucking truckload of money if you do this. I'll give you a truckload of money if you vote for me. I'll give you a truckload of money if you put down that riot in Minneapolis. I'll give you a truckload of fucking, like, what will stop that? Now, there's going to be different people running the printer and handing out the free fucking money, but that's not going to stop. It will go, I believe, further and further towards leftism. You know what I mean? Further and further towards confiscatory. Oh, you want a house? You're rich. You know your skin tone is this and not this. Well, this is privilege. This is a X percent tax. This is a higher percent tax. In California, they are going to look to pass a law where the electrical utilities can charge you a different rate for electricity depending on your income. So if you make $100,000 a year, you pay whatever, 20 cents a kilowatt. If you only make $50,000 a year, well, you pay 10 cents a kilowatt. That's fucking insane. That's not going to work. But this is where we are. And as this stuff gets worse and worse and worse, and right now it's still not terribly bad, but it's going to get worse because all of these schemes, all of this bullshit is going to fail, and people are going to demand more money. They're going to demand more this, and just the printer's just going to run crazy until the US dollar is like the Venezuelan bolivares, and no one's going to stop them. So getting emotionally involved in that is a bad idea. Understanding that this is inevitable and that you can do something to protect yourself and your progeny is a rational fucking choice. That's a rational choice, and the choice you should make. I try to convince people of this, but right now, you don't want it. Pretty much my lifestyle's okay. You don't want it's not really that bad. Yeah, grocery prices are up. Yeah, gasoline prices are up. But still, I'm not living that different of a life. But once the money gets weaker and weaker, you're going to go like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? And the good news, the glorious, happy news is Bitcoin is always open to you 24/7, 365, and nobody can stop you from owning it. So you go to work like these Turkish people, right? Where's the Turkish people? The
From
Turkish
Turkey
inflation people.
a couple months ago, and I wanted to spend. We all know that they've gone through this hyperinflation, so I spent a few days there. I had a tour guide. This gal is probably 30 years old, and I was very inquisitive with pretty much everyone I met. You know, I said, "How are you guys dealing with this inflation?" And they're actually dealing with it very well. But this was their strategy. What they do is they get paid in lira. At the end of the week, they pay all their bills, and anything they have left over, they immediately turn it into dollars or gold. And then I went through the airport, that brand new airport they have.
We have to transact in USD. We have to transact in Federal Reserve funds. You have to pay your rent and pay for gasoline and blah, 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 blah. That's what you have to do. We're not in a position where we can change that, all right? So that's what you must do. But outside of what you absolutely must do, the additional value or wealth that you have created from the services you provide or the goods you produce should be saved in a form that cannot be stolen. That is our idea. And this is a wildly radical idea that is just too big for people to understand. You grew up in a world where everybody has paper receipts. America has dollars, Canada has dollars, Mexico has pesos, the French have francs, the Germans have Deutschmarks. Like, and you cannot imagine that it's ever going to change, but it's going to change. And it's not going to change for the better. It's going to change for the worse because they're all incompetent scumbags who are just going to enrich their friends and look out for themselves. And until this thing collapses, we have to ride the tide, right? So what happens if you die with your Bitcoin in your head? You make a donation, a equitable donation to everyone who holds Bitcoin because their Bitcoin just became more valuable. The amount of real estate, digital real estate in the imaginary Manhattan becomes smaller, and so it becomes more valuable. Like Picasso paintings are valuable because there's only a few of them on the face of the earth. There aren't 10,000 Picasso paintings. There's maybe 10 of them. You know what I mean? That are worth whatever. That's why people buy them, you know? So anyway, life's gonna throw you curveballs. You need to, you definitely need to be able to deal with this. And part of that is having a positive view of the future where there's a lot of shit I can't control, but this I definitely can control. My labor, my wealth, my whatever is not going to be saved in green pieces of paper issued by Jews who do not have my best interest at heart. That's my worldview. You can accept it or reject it, and if you reject it, that's fine. But smash up the like button. Last stream we only got 17 views, 15. I think it was only like 5 likes. Like what's up with you dudes? Judas Fly Chai, based Persian mission guy. Shalom, where have you been? What happens? So, Mr. Fly Chai, you are very, very, very late to the party, sir. I don't know what you were doing, blazing away. Maybe you were at some, I don't know what. But when the stream is over, you can rewatch the beginning. There's some fun stuff, some fun, some really more lighthearted stuff. But you have been praying. Well, good for you, sir. I hope that it helps you, and I hope that it gives you peace and guides you towards behaving in a way that will make you proud of your behavior and not ashamed of your behavior. To not feel guilty. But anyway, with that, we're like, where are we at? We're at 1 hour, 13 minutes. Want to thank everybody who stopped by, everyone who said something in the chat. And we got Judas Fly Chai wigging out of here. He like spams the chat like crazy. He just comes in and just goes wild. But all things, but I'm teasing. I'm teasing you, sir. I appreciate your continued whatever viewership. But we got to do. What are we gonna do? It's an hour and 14. We got to bail out because it goes too long. people's eyes roll up in the back of their head and they don't want to hear it anymore. Plus, I have no more videos. I have no more screen shares. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Thank you for everybody in the comments. And I will talk to you dudes next week.